Angel Morgan, and welcome to Raising Energy Roundtable. This is a fun way for us to do our show now that our landscape is changing. So today I have exciting guests. I always do, and we always have fun. And today I'm excited to introduce to you two one is my favorite person, and one is becoming one of my favorite people. I follow you on Instagram, Kayla. I think it's really cool. So I'm going to introduce my guests. Angela Swift. Could you please welcome everybody? Angela Swift. Today we are going to be talking about tarot cards and the mythologies around them, the facts around them, the truths around them. And we're also going to be welcoming our guest, Kayla Marie. How are you, Kayla?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. And Angela, hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful, Angel. Thanks for having me. And it's nice to meet you, Kayla.
So nice to meet you, Angela. Looking forward to this.
This is going to be a lot of fun, because what's really cool is that we can literally go around the world now to bring our guests. But we are homegrown today, and we have Kayla, who's right here in Etobicoke, which is around the Toronto area. And we have Angela, who's in Toronto as well. So we have a very Canadian cast. Today I want to talk about... Canada. Not that I don't love my international guests as well, my international viewers. And I love that because we're online now, right? So you can actually go online to rogerstv.com/raising energy, and you can watch our show pretty much every day online. So today we're talking about tarot cards. And this is really exciting to me because this is kind of where I started. I started as a reader, but I always needed something tangible to be able to work with. And I work a little differently than a lot of readers. So what I would like to do is I would love for you guys to talk about what your experiences are and who you are, and we'll go from there. So Angela, let's start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your experiences with tarot really quickly, and then we'll go to Kayla, and then we'll jump right in.
Okay, thank you. I'm actually a psychic medium. I use tarot, well, I've been doing tarot probably for about 20 years, maybe more. It's funny. I will do my readings, and then I will lay my tarot cards out, and whatever I have said in the reading will be in the tarot cards. So it's kind of cool to do it that way. What have I learned? I've learned so much about them. I could go on forever.
Yeah.
When you start, right?
Exactly.
You know?
So Kayla, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about who you are and what you do.
Awesome. So I'm Kayla Marie from Uplifting Tarot. I am a tarot reader, and I crafted the name Uplifting Tarot from my personal experiences of being scared around delving into tarot. I've always had a curiosity, and when I finally allowed myself to get my first reading, I was 16, and I just cried with such resonance. And I feel like it was resonance and fear. And since then, I've really allowed myself to put both feet in, go all the way, learn the system, and kind of evolve it in a way that I feel like really connects people with themselves. Yeah. So I use tarot in a way that maybe is a little bit different than what I thought it was initially.
And that's what I love about this time, is that our concepts of any kind of esoteric work are now changing. They're being utilized in different ways for different things, especially for healing. Now, I want to start at the start, because that was a very interesting thing you said about systems and learning the systems. But before we go there, I want to know, because I am not adept at tarot. Everybody knows I'm a psychic and an animal communicator. What they don't know is that I did work with tarot, and I do every once in a while still, and I'll tell that story later. But Angela and you obviously know a little bit more about the history than I do. So Angela, why don't we start with you? Can you tell us a little bit about the history of tarot, or the Rider-Waite deck, or how tarot even began? Do you have, I know you have that information, or some of it.
Some of it, not all of it.
Not all of it.
Well, actually, tarot, from what I'm understanding and what I remember from all the classes I've taken, it was taught by, well, it was royalty. Royalty only used it. And a lot of them only used the higher arcana cards because it dealt more with the upper class, the upper people. the 1 to 10 was usually the lower class people, so they weren't included in the cards, and you weren't allowed to use it unless you were royalty.
Wow.
And we're going back quite a few.
Yeah, and that's pretty much where I want to start. So
yeah, and you had to be. I want to say, oh God, how would Kayla help me on this one? Because I'm trying to think of, was it the ministers and all that you was doing it, or was it more of this for fun? I cannot remember that part.
Yeah, so I believe that it was the ministers and all that they were doing it, but it turned into a fun game.
It turned into a fun game, yes.
Oh, yeah,
I
because
remember that.
I think then at the point of when we get to the Victorian era, which is what I kind of know a little bit more about, it became something that the upper classes did, but they were behind closed doors. This isn't something you would do in polite company. This is stuff that you would do as, you know, an evening of get together with your friends kind of thing. And those people who did do the tarot cards or readings or who were psychics, I believe are those people who, again, were on the outside or the outskirts of society. You know, you're not going to find them in town. You're going to find them, you know, in the darker parts of Diagon Alley, so to speak.
Yes.
Those of you who know Harry Potter, I'm in a really so. But yeah, these are these interesting little things that we need to understand, because when we go to the beginnings and the origins, it helps us understand how it's evolved into what it's become now. So we know that at the time of royalty, as far as I understand it, and I do agree with that, it was to actually help with the guidance. It was to help kings and queens rule. It was to help understand even, you know, is this person the right person to marry? Because, well, they have children, you know, are we going to die in the battlement? Are we going to do all this kind of stuff? But by the Victorian era, it became more, like you said, the game and the curiosity. And that's where spirituality started to open up. And then tarot kind of went to the wayside. And then we started having the seances and working more energetically. But I feel like that's really come around now, because even on Instagram and on social media, I'm seeing a lot of tarot. I'm seeing a lot of card work.
Yes.
But it's not just tarot cards. It's also
Oracle cards
as well, which I think are really cool, to be honest. Now, the Rider-Waite deck, Kayla, do you know anything about how the origins of the Rider-Waite deck came out to be? Like, that's the classic deck. If you don't, that's okay.
So the Rider-Waite deck, it's debated. Its history is debated. From what I've read, the majority of theorists believe that it originated in Italy, and that there are some people who take it back to the Egyptians. Like,
I was just going to say that the Egyptians. I've heard the Egyptians.
There's all sorts of layers and symbology in the deck, so it's really difficult to pinpoint exactly where it originated. But I do know that it got most popular in Italy and that it became a card game. And so the drawings on it have changed.
Yeah.
But it's still up for debate.
And now we have so many different decks too, right? And that's a really important thing to do, because to talk about, because I know for myself, I have a lot of clients who ask me, well, how do I get a tarot deck? Like, how do I go about receiving my first one? And there's a lot of different mythologies around that. Some people believe that it needs to be gifted to you. Other people believe that the deck will sing to you and it will come to you off the shelf, which is actually what happened to me. I was actually in chapters on the very first day that I was working at the Hedge Witch, where Angela and I actually met. And I was walking down the aisle and I was trying to kill time because I was going to be early. I was so nervous, my first readings. And all of a sudden this deck fell off the shelf. And at that time I was just an animal communicator there. And I thought, oh, okay, that's too expensive. I don't have enough money. And I put it back on the shelf. And I kept doing that because it kept falling off. So then I tried to leave the store, and it's like I hit a wall. And I couldn't leave. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Whatever. And I still, to this day, ladies and gentlemen, still work with my animal deck. And this one was literally, I feel like it was gifted to me by the universe, by the gods, because again, it was an animal deck. What are the odds that an animal deck are going to fall off? How do you guys feel? And how did you guys receive your first decks? And how do you feel about the idea that there's so much choice out there now? Angela, let's start with you.
Oh my God, that's a heavy question because every time I go out, I want to buy. Like, I go, more.
And you do, you end up with a collective of them.
I get so
Yeah.
excited. My first tarot deck I actually bought myself because I was taking a course and they said bring a tarot deck. So I just went out and bought one. And then I got gifted one from some other friends of mine, which I have somewhere here, which was the goddess cards. And I like the Rider-Waite deck. It resonates with me. It makes me feel good. I understand it. All the other cards you can understand them too, but that's sort of where I fall head over heels over them.
Yeah, and you do have like this really nice Victorian edge to you too, because I've been to your house, I've seen it. It's just so cozy and chic. I love it. And Kayla, tell us about your journey with your first deck.
Funniest thing, I also was in chapters. And I also had heard in the past, again, someone who had a lot of fear and who had absorbed a lot of the taboo. I had heard that you were supposed to be gifted your first deck. I bought my first deck too from chapters, immediately went outside with a friend on the grass, did a huge reading and blew my own mind and hers. And so it's like now with my Instagram with Uplifting Tarot, I try to empower people to purchase their own deck, to have their own sense of agency, because I feel like that taboo specifically is to like separate people from the tool.
Well, it's also perception, right? Because the way I looked at it was the universe was gifting me with my cards, right? When you have that feeling, when you have a draw to something like a pendulum, it's the same thing. The pendulum sings to you. I think the cards can sing to you too. I really believe that. Sorry?
Definitely. I agree with that because I'll go in and it's just like, I see a deck and it's just like, I want you. The deck says to me, you need to take me home.
Now, have you guys ever found a deck that doesn't resonate with you? Like you just look at it and go, God, just no. Have you guys? Yeah. Tell me about that.
Oh, Kayla, you want to go first or you want to?
I have this deck and it's like some sort of intergalactic mixed with like Mexican archaeology. Like it's so many different layers and it's a whole different system. And every time I would pull a card, it just didn't feel aligned for me.
Yeah.
And I think that I think a part of it was like overcomplicating it. Yeah. Like, I know this system well. I love my Rider-Waite as well. And for me, it's like, I find this interesting. Let me try this. Well, why? What are you looking for?
Yeah. See, for me, I found one deck. It was actually gifted to me. And I looked and went, oh, thanks. I really appreciate that. And I found that I was just the keeper of the deck because when I met my fiance, it was a really interesting thing. He was into this kind of stuff, but he didn't quite understand it. And all of a sudden, I found this deck after years. It was there. And I picked it up and I'm like, oh my God, I know who this belongs to. And I gifted it to him. And it was like my spider was the same thing. I bought this spider and I love her. Her name is Phoebe. She's wonderful. I had her for about 4 months before I met him. And then he came into my like, oh my God, the spider belongs to you. So I feel that certain decks and certain things come to us, but they're not necessarily for us. And I find that I tend to pass them along, right?
I've done the same thing. I usually have a bunch of people over. We'll sit around and I'll get all my cards out and they'll all go through them and we'll do readings for each other. And one day I had this one deck that I never, ever touched. And my one friend, she's going, oh my God. And she's freaking out and she's reading them and she's seeing so much more into them than I ever saw. And I go, you take them, please.
Okay, now this is a very interesting thing. You've segued nicely into the next thing that I want to talk about, selfishly, is how you guys work. Now, I know every reader is different. Everybody brings their own energy to the table. And I say this to my clients and to my viewers all the time that, when you read with me and you read with somebody else, you might get the similar information, you might get the same information, but because we're on different vibes, you're going to get a very different reading because it's a very different feel, right? So tell me a little bit, guys, about how you read and why you read the way you do. Like, what is it about you? Let's go with Kayla first.
So my whole goal in a reading is to help empower the person that I'm reading for, to connect them back with themselves. Again, like touching on the complication versus simplicity, I feel like a lot of the times as to why people want a reading is because there is too much going on, whether it's a feeling of pressure or confusion or society or others wanting something different than you want for yourself. So my reading style has really changed. When I first read tarot, it was extremely black and white. This is what's going to happen. Now, I don't feel that way whatsoever. When I read for someone, this is the tip of the iceberg of potential as to what can happen. Now, let's work with this vibration and let's expand on this, but get them into that space of there's so much for me to explore as long as I'm connected to me.
I agree with that. And now, do you use a format? Do you use a structure when you read your tarot?
I do. I do.
And is this learned, or is this something that just came naturally to you? Like did you learn them through classes or what have you?
I have taken a couple of classes and I adored them. But I believe after taking classes, it's like the trial and error and the adapting and, you know, creating a system that's unique to you. So I will generally pull some foundational cards just to see where the energy's at, some gold cards up at the top, what's in between.
You've created your own structures.
My own structure. It's based off of the Celtic cross, if I'm being honest. I just don't put that cross in the middle because there is more than that going on here. And I feel like the cross, I feel like the part in the very middle, that challenge, I feel like if I leave that with someone, they're gonna take that away. Versus let's talk about the medicine here and how do we shift this challenge more so than naming the challenge. They're going to leave with it and be fixated on it.
Absolutely. Now there are, Angela, a lot of different structures that can be used, correct? Like a lot of
true. You could, oh my gosh, there's so many. There's an astrology one. There's just a 3-card one. There's a 2-card one. You can just play one out every day. It's all up to you. Yeah. I don't use a basic. I'm kind of like Kayla. I just kind of made up my own thing. Yeah. And it feels right to me, and I can read perfectly with them. And that's the same across the top, a middle, and then I expand and expand. Nice. But what I've started doing lately to get even more information is I've gone to oracle cards, where I'll shuffle the oracle cards. I'll pull an oracle card out at the beginning of the reading that gives you the basic of what this reading is going to be about. Very simple layman terms, which are oracle cards, very simple kind of layman terms. Then I'll lay out the rest, which gets more in depth, more into the story. And then I'll end with an oracle card. So the person can sit there and go, oh my God, I get it. I understand.
Oh, cool. Yeah. See, I'm more intuitive reader because I can't focus very well. So I've never learned structures, right? So I've never learned like the Celtic cross. I've never delved into the way you guys have. So I had a reader once tell me my very, very, very first reading. She was this gypsy who had like all this like lipstick went out to here. And she goes, well, go pick up a deck of cards. I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying. She goes, just go pick up a deck of cards. So years later, I meet Angela. Angela says, go pick up a deck of cards. So I did. I picked up a deck of cards and they spoke to me. So the way I work is I actually just throw cards down and whatever comes, I read and we speak. And it came to the point where I could see what the card was telling me before I dropped the card. So I knew which card was going to get dropped, right? And that's where the intuitive part really started to take over. And that's when I kind of started to put my cards aside and I started to realize, okay, I'm not a tarot reader. I'm actually something a little bit different. And so that's where I understood where it belonged in my tool case, but that I wasn't necessarily on that particular path of the tarot reader. I'm more of an intuitive reader, if you will.
Eva, I was going to call Angel. The thing is that it's all a tool. No matter what you use, it's always a tool, and it'll get you to where you want to be.
Yes, so I agree. And that's what
crystals, whatever. It's just a tool.
Yeah. And I think too, it's wonderful because some people, I find some clients really need the tangible. So it depends on who's sitting in front of you too, right? So there are days when I'll pull out my cards knowing I don't really need to, but I will because I know it's something they need to see. Right. So that's one of the things I really love. So tell me, what is it that you love about the healing aspect of tarot? What is it that really turns you on about it, Kayla?
Oh my goodness. I absolutely adore working with entrepreneurs. That's who I work with mostly.
Really?
I just love doing a reading for someone and then hearing that they went and took all of these different action steps, expanded. If I have them on Instagram, all of a sudden they're, doing these specific videos that they talked about, having this, I'll pick it up, there's a fear of being seen. There's this, there's that, blah, blah, let's talk about it. And the reward is truly seeing them take action.
Yeah.
It's so fulfilling.
Yeah, that's very cool because I jive on that too, watching people grow, right? That's a big thing for me. Angela, what is it that you love about this that you keep coming back to it?
I keep coming back to it because for me to see someone glow, to see someone get so excited about life and move forward and go, oh my gosh, I understand where I need to go, or I have a little bit more of a clear direction, or oh my God, all this crap that I'm going through is going to end.
Yes, yes. And there's the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes. People don't see that light at the end of the tunnel.
All right, I'm going to throw a spin at you guys. Have you guys ever, and I have, and this was so unexpected. This blew my mind. Have you guys ever done a tarot reading for an animal?
No. I never have.
I have.
But I haven't.
I have. I had this dog come in once. It was husky. I will never forget this as long as I live. And this was one of my first experiences with tarot. And this husky came in. It was at the Hedge Witch, and I was reading for the woman, for the owner, what have you, because we were talking about her life, what have you. But the dog was there because she went everywhere with this dog. And then all of a sudden, all I heard was, draw one for me. And I'm like, what? And I'm hearing, draw one for me. I'm like, is this really coming from the dog? Like, I thought I was insane. So I said, no, I'm not going to draw one for you. So you draw it yourself. So I put some cards down on the floor for the dog, which I'm sure is probably not something I'm supposed to do with the cards, but I put them down and the dog went over and stepped on the card. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. And I drew the card and it was exactly what I had been trying to express to the owner. And I couldn't put it into words. It was incredible. Like the animal knew their owner so well. So I do that every once in a while. Like even when I'm playing with my cards, I'll call in, one of my cats and go, do you want something? And usually it's the male kitten, and he'll come in and he'll lie on a card, or he'll push a card, or he'll move. Like, it's amazing when you start to utilize animals within the deck too. But that's been my experience, right? So I've had those really, really cool things happen. So that might be something you guys want to try. Calling in.
Definitely want to try that. That sounds really fun.
It is fun. It's really cool. Do you have animals, Kayla?
I don't, but I was going to say I want to try that as well because I just moved into the place that I'm at. I moved in a couple months ago, and there's a neighborhood cat who comes all of the time, and they haven't been here for like a week. So I want to know how they are. What's up?
Yes, as soon as you started talking about animals with you, I saw a dog with you. So I think there might be a potential for a dog coming too, which would be really exciting.
It would be very exciting. We're talking about
Congratulations. I didn't know you just moved. So congratulations on that. So did the tarot cards tell you to move? Do you do this for yourself? Do you guys work with your own cards?
All the time.
But I do sometimes.
What? Sorry, Angela?
I do sometimes, not all the time.
Now, isn't that considered a taboo as well? Like, isn't that like we're not supposed to read for ourselves? That doesn't apply to cards, does it?
No.
Well, I have to share that for me, it's not the same as getting a reading from either one of you.
Yeah.
For me, I use them more as like a reflection tool versus, is this in my highest and best interest? I'll still pull that, but, I'm me, so I'm going to change the story. I have an ego. I've got, you know what I mean?
I agree with you.
Right?
I do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually I just go to Angela. I'm just like, Angela, can you pull a card for me? Can you talk? And she's always
I'll
really
lay cards out for myself and then I'll look at it and go, I don't like that, and I'll put it back.
you know what I do? Sometimes I'll get one that's in reverse and I'm like, no, I'm not feeling that's in reverse.
I'll ask the same question a couple times. If I don't like the answer, I'll just skip it, go take a nap, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's too funny.
Not today, not today. I'm not dealing with that today.
It was so funny because I've always been taught that if a card flips out of the deck, that's one you have to put down, right? That's one that you have to read. Yeah, I was reading one time and this one flipped down and I saw the picture just before it flipped over, like it did kind of a peanut butter, bread thing. It went blah. And I went, no, I know, I was going to leave that. I don't want to know. I don't want to see that. Now, I did something that I don't know that I should have done. When I was single, I used to pull cards. And every time I pulled a card around relationship, this one particular card would always come up. Now, if you consistently have the same card coming up, is that something that you should be taking a note of?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so, because I feel like it's a lesson that you're supposed to be learning or something you're supposed to understand about yourself.
Yes.
And so you look deep into it.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Now, when we come back, because we only have 2 minutes right now, when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about, how you guys feel about working with the major arcana, with the 1 to 10 cards. Are they different? Do you only work with them? And how you guys delve into that for yourselves and for clients. For me, I don't really look at those kinds of things. They don't even really register because I'm not like you guys. I'm not an adept with tarot cards. But one of the things I want to talk about too is going to be oracle cards and how they're used, because I love using them in such a way that is, I don't want to give it away. We have 2 minutes, so I want to fill this time with a little bit of information about you guys. So where can we find you, Kayla? If somebody wants to find you, where are they going to find you? Really quick.
You can find me on Instagram. I'm Uplifting Tarot, or you can find me at upliftingtarot.com.
Awesome. And Angela, where is everyone going to find you?
You can find me either at the Hedge Witch on Wednesdays and Fridays, and I'm also on Instagram on Angela_tarot. I'm sorry, Angela_psychic. I'm getting all confused with the tarot and the psychic today.
That's okay. I'm always confused, so don't worry. And for those of you who want to know a little bit more about me, you can find me at raisingenergy.com or my Instagram at Raising Energy, or you can actually find me on Facebook too. And you can find all this information there. And I'm actually going to be throwing a post out there that's going to let people know about Angela and Kayla as well, because you guys just rock. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun in the second segment. Now, if you want to watch this segment, go to RogersTV.com/Raising Energy. And we'll be right back after these messages. And we're back for the second part of Raising Energy Roundtable. And we're talking about tarot, myth, and truths. And we've been having a great time with our guests, Kayla and Angela. Thank you again for being here. It's just so exciting. I love having you here. So in the first half, we talked about our own experiences. We talked about the history of tarot and all that kind of stuff. Now, when you guys work with tarot, do you find that working with, now the major arcana are the king, the queen, the jack. Is that correct? Just those three, or what? Tell me about that part. What are the major arcana?
Those are the court cards.
Court cards. Okay.
Yeah. I'm kind of going like, what? Yeah, those are the court cards. The major arcana would be like the Fool all the way down to the Hermit.
Okay. So is
more involved with spirit.
Okay, so would you say working with the major arcana is different than working from 1 to 10? Like, is that a different experience? Like, I know you work with all of them together, but I also know with readings, you can just do the major arcana or just the 1 to 10. Like, what makes that different and why would you do that?
Angela, do you mind if I jump in?
No, go ahead.
And I'm looking forward to hearing your take too. For me personally, when I am reading, and I will just notice the difference of the energy between the major arcana and the minor arcana. The minor arcana for me is more day to day. And, it doesn't mean that whatever's coming up, if it's minor arcana, it doesn't mean that it feels small to the person that I'm reading for.
Yeah.
But when I have a major arcana, it's like big medicine. And if I do a reading with a lot of major arcana, I'm just so thankful that the person's there for that reading, because it means that there's a lot of shift, a lot they need to integrate. There's just so much. They're probably going through something that feels very big.
So it's very, very different energy or medicines. And I love the fact that you call them medicines, because they really are too. And Angela, what is your take on that?
Well, I use all the cards, but if you just look at the major arcana, to me, they're more about spirit. They're more about what the universe is giving to you that you need to learn, that you need to understand more. And like Kayla said, the lower arcana is more about day-to-day, everyday things. So when I'm doing a reading, I'm the same as Kayla. I get more excited when I see the higher arcana than the lower ones, because it means that the universe is stepping in to guide you, and that the universe has your back and is there to help you move through whatever you're going through.
I'm totally learning much here. This is awesome. My inner Valley girl just came out. Sorry. Okay, so that's actually another really nice segue into Oracle cards. So I love Oracle cards. And the reason I love Oracle cards is they remind me, the way I utilize them is on a daily basis. And so I will pull a card for myself to give me guidance. And that comes from something when I was younger that my grandfather used to do. He used to work with what's called bibliomancy. And he probably wouldn't have called it that, but it's when the elders would go and get a Bible, and every Sunday or each day, Angela's laughing, she knows, and they would kind of flip through, and they would go, that's the passage they read, and that would help them guide. And I remember being a little girl and watching this, and my grandfather doing it, my sister and I just kind of peeking around the corner. And one day he did that, and he read it, and all he did is close, and he just went, crap. And we were laughing. So when I look at the Oracle cards, there's a familiarity for me, because it's so easy, because they usually have little statements, right? And the pictures are so grand in some of them as well. And I have many decks, and I'm usually called to a certain deck. Like one day I'll be called to one deck, or if I'm having career problems, I'll go to another deck, but they tend to sing to me. So tell me a little bit about how you guys feel about Oracle decks. Angela, talk to me about Oracle decks.
I love Oracle decks.
Wow.
They're actually kind of interesting, but I'm going to say something even more interesting than just the Oracle deck. Is you look at the book and you open up on any page.
Yeah.
Same thing. And it's amazing because you can get everything you need to know for that day. Yeah. And I find that really exciting to do, because it'll tell you everything. But it's also, when you get confused, tells you exactly what you need to know. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mess around. It doesn't get into, like big, long words that nobody understands. It's very simple and straightforward. But just read the book sometimes, and just use what you said, like the Bible stuff, and just open it and read what you need to.
This one's my favorite. I've had this for ages and ages and ages, and this is actually one of my favorites.
I love that one. I have the cards right behind me.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot you do.
Yeah, I've got them in the frame.
Yeah. I've seen them before at your house. Yeah, these ones are great, but this is my personal deck. Like, nobody actually touches this deck. Mm-hmm. And I know with some people, they're just like, you don't touch anybody else's deck unless they let you, and that there are certain rules that people adhere to. This is the only deck I feel that with, and it is an Oracle deck. Like, I love the illustrations.
I love the illustrations.
Yeah, the Oracle decks have these amazing illustrations, regardless of what they are. Did you know there's even a baseball Oracle deck, and it's all the famous baseball players throughout history? I just think that's so cool that there's an Oracle deck for everybody. Oh,
there's an Oracle deck for anything you want.
Yeah, it's amazing. Kayla, what about you? Tell me about Oracle decks and how you feel about them.
So initially, I was hesitant to use Oracle decks because I was such a tarot purist. Just a
tarot snob.
Yeah, I was. But again, just back to simplicity. What is going to what is going to bring the message through?
Yeah.
Regardless of what it is. What does that person need to hear? It's more about them than me and my tarot snobbiness, whatever it is, right? And also for myself, if I'm overcomplicating, if I'm stressing out, if I'm procrastinating, do you two do this? You procrastinate by reading for yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right?
Okay, I'm not the only one who does that. Oh God, thank you. Thank you. Do you see, people, for the viewers out there, we are human. We have our follies. Okay, this actually brings, you've just triggered a thought in my head, because one of the things I procrastinate on is cleansing and clearing and doing that kind of stuff. Sometimes I'm really bad at it. I'm getting better. But what about your decks? Like, one of the things I like about this show is for people who out there who are watching this and they work with tarot, we can give them some tips, right? Techniques from experts. And that's what you guys are. You're my energetic experts today. So how do you care for a deck? Once you have a deck, let's start from the newness. You have a new deck, somebody's gifted it to you, universe, person, what have you. What do you do first? And then how do you care for it from there? Do you guys have the same technique or similar techniques? Angela, let's start with you.
I usually smudge mine before I start working with them, so that whatever energy is on them will be removed. And also, after reading them, I'll knock on them, which knocks all the energy out of them. And everyone recommends put it in silk or some kind of cloth, cotton cloth or something. I got my velour bag.
Nice.
And I always keep in there my crystals, one of my crystals, to put on top of the cards to cleanse them also.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then every once in a while, I will leave all my decks out that I use. I'll leave them out during a full moon and let the moon clean them.
Nice, right on. And what are your rituals around your cards?
So this might be an unpopular opinion, but for me, I truly treat my cards like pieces of paper. And my goal is to truly allow people into this world. So seeing them as a tool, more so than the physical card itself, I like to connect with the energy, with the numerology, the symbology of everything that's bringing forward for me. The only time that I would potentially clear a deck is if it's being given to me secondhand. And that's no disrespect. It's just kind of allowing it a new beginning.
Yeah. From the back. Yeah, that makes complete sense too. I remember I got my very first set of rune stones came from somebody very special, and I love them and everything. And I love the fact that their energy was on them, but I needed to attune them to me, right? So I did a small clearing. I did a rebalancing in them. So yeah, I agree with that. For me, I knock my cards, but I actually keep my cards in my mesa. So I have been taught, and I've worked with medicine people from Peru. And so I was given a mesa. It was like a traveling altar. It's like a blanket. And in that blanket, there's a bag. And within that bag, I keep my tools or my altar pieces. And my original deck, which was my animal divine, that particular deck goes into my mesa, and that's where it lives, right? The others are usually on my bookshelf, and they're still in their boxes. Actually, that's the only one that travels.
Mine are still in the boxes too. A lot of mine.
I feel like I have more tarot boxes than I have anything else. I just got boxes and boxes like all over, and books and
Yes.
I can see that, right? Because that's what you do. And that's it. It's tools of the trade, right? It's tools of the trade. They're everywhere. But I really love that picture behind you, because you can do that, right? If you have, a deck, or you find cards. I actually was at a garage sale. I wish when I was a teenager, I had understood this. I was at a garage sale, and there was like 3 cards left. Like they was just on a table. It's like 5 cents a card because they're pretty pictures. Had I understood, I probably would have taken those cards, and I would have put them in a picture frame, right? I would have done something, because it was just beautiful. I mean, they're gorgeous works of art, right? They are. It's really important.
They're really quite beautiful.
They are. They're amazing. And you can get, she's brought a bag, and you can get tarot decks pretty much anywhere, can't you? Like usually curiosity shops, but they're fairly readily available.
They're readily available almost anywhere. You can even get them on T-shirts.
Yeah, what? What do you want?
Deck on the T-shirt. Why not?
Sure. Tattoo.
I have
They're really popular now. I've seen like carpets, I've seen huge like blankets and things for the walls. Like it's just taking off. But
I have a long coat with the moon on the back.
beautiful.
Really?
Mhm.
Oh my God, that's nice. I find in TV shows too that they're utilized even more. I was watching, which is a very popular show right now, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. I don't know if you guys watch that, but it's a really great thing because cards are used cross-culturally. It's not just a North American thing or an Italian thing or an English thing, because there's this beautiful segment, and everybody who knows me knows I love the Haitian cultures. And they go to New Orleans in one episode and they talk to this Haitian witch, and she sits down and she puts out all the cards. And it was really funny because I was talking to someone about this and they're going, oh, I would never use tarot. I would never do that, right? Because it's just so scary and it's so frightening. And I never really understood that concept of it being frightening. Now, I did have a teacher once tell me that he worked with tarot and he actually fell into the deck. And he goes, it's the last time I ever worked with tarot. And I said, well, maybe it wasn't the deck. Maybe you were going to Akashic Records. Maybe you were going somewhere else. But, you know, you place these protections around you, so you're fine. How do you feel about the fear around tarot? Because it is like a lot of people are as scared of tarot as they are, say, a Ouija board or a haunted house.
Angel, can I say something? Well, I took a class a while ago, and what they did is they took each tarot card and you did a meditation and you walked into the tarot card. And it was really amazing because you walked in and you would see the water, you would see the moon, you would see everything there. And how does it feel? What does it look like? How does it resonate? What information are you getting from it? And then you would come back out and you would do that every day with one of your cards. And it was an amazing experience, you know, to go into each one.
So he must have done that, but because he did that in a place of unawareness, with a place of without a teacher or someone to guide them, it became a little bit of a scary situation for him. But where does this fear of tarot come from? Like, where does that come? I don't even understand.
I think it comes from the church.
Yeah.
Because
Religion?
Yeah.
it's oracle, anything to do. It's not believing in God.
And
It's
do you
not
think?
trusting God's word.
And do you think that the death card and the devil card play into that? Like that's the kind of, those two cards don't help matters. Let's put it that way.
Probably not.
Yeah, because
But
it's
it's worshiping anything that's not to deal with God
right.
or the church or whatever is bad. So it's been labeled that way for so long that people will automatically think, oh, well, it's bad. You'll pull in the devil, you'll pull in evil stuff, low entities, the whole works.
And, you know, I think that's very true, because the whole concept of, you know, our work being that of the divine, and who are we to touch it? Who are we to work with it? You can't be pure if you're working with it, because only the pure can. I think that does make a huge difference. But I think the tarot cards are so sorely misunderstood too, because of the artwork, right? The artwork in of itself it can be misunderstood. Again, going back to the death card and the devil card, because for me, the death card is actually one of the most beautiful cards in the deck, because it's about transition. It's not literal, right? And it's very rarely, I think, when you're working with cards or any kind of divination, that's literal. And I think that's a really big thing to make sure we talk about. So, Kayla, how do you feel about that?
Oh my goodness. I feel like you have both just done justice to how I feel. I really relate to what you're sharing. For me, I also feel like fear dissipates on the other side of knowledge. Once I understand these cards, once I understand the symbols, and again, like I like to say, the medicine of these cards, when they come up, I can respect what they want to share with me. And in a reading, if the death card comes up, if the devil card comes up, I will let that person know that, you know, I'm feeling with them, for them. I know that this is an uncomfortable transition, but that you know that it's for the best. Or if the devil card does come up, you are so brave right now because you are working with your ego. You are scared and you're still showing up.
And there's something transitioning for you right now. And that's what the devil is showing you. So now you're aware that that really is happening. It can be validation, confirmation.
Yes.
You know, I had someone come in once and that card came up and right away she smiled. I said, why are you smiling? She goes, I know that's about my relationship. And that's what I got too. She goes, I really love my boyfriend, but I feel chained to him. So it feels so literal when I see that card. And it's really cool. But unfortunately, I think people do look at the cards and they're so literal rather than looking. See, for me, I'm starting to understand something about the work I do as a psychic, as an animal communicator, working with tarot, working with pendulums. I'm a creative.
Yes.
And this is such an abstract line of work that we work in that it's hard to look at things in a linear way, because if you do, you're going to miss some of the message, right? And how do you guys feel about that?
I also am an artist. And for me, I actually physically started to make tarograms. And I just want to show you a piece
What's
of
a tarogram?
a tarogram is like literally a tarot card that I would pick for someone for the year, for an occasion, and then just like a mantra around it or something that comes up around it. And it's handmade and it's a way to tangibly, physically work with the deck, allow someone to have something to hold on to afterwards. I just started doing it, but it's truly just being able to channel the fact that we are artists.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. So, and that's what I find too. I find, you know, Ben Kingsley once said that. He said, we're a tribe of intuitives. And he said, this is our safe way of expressing ourselves is through art and film. And I was an actor for more than 20 years. And what's really cool is that I find that a lot of esoterics, a lot of energetics are actually creative and artists and dancers and singers. And it's a really cool thing to start to understand, right? Like people who do tarot decks, these are artists. These are people who have that skill within them, you know? So, so the next thing I wanted to talk about, my son was a very little boy when he was introduced to oracle cards and working with them. And I remember sitting in my studio one day and I was, you know, practicing. So all my cards, I was, okay, I got to pick the horse. I got to find the horse. And I couldn't find the horse. 6-year-old comes in and he goes, oh, mommy, okay, you know what? Pick a horse. Dude, there's the horse. I'm like, what? And he did it about 3 or 4 times. And it's like to the point where I was like, okay, go back inside, go just get lost. How do you feel about children and working with cards? What's that take for you? Like, even if you've never done it, what are your feelings on that? Angela?
Well, it all depends. That's kind of a loaded question, because if you grow up in a family that does it, then you wouldn't think twice about it. But if you're someone who's like 10 or 8 or 9 years old and you pick up a deck of cards, you're not going to know what to do with them. And if no one's there to guide you, then that's when people start getting fearful.
But what if you have a mom or a dad who works with this and their child is interested, curious? What would you do?
All the power to them. I would work with them.
Yeah, because
I would not want them doing readings for people, but I would let them work with them. I would let them understand them. I would let look at the colors, look at the numbers, look at everything that's involved in that card. And how does that card make you feel?
When Jay was a little boy, he had a tarot deck for him, and it was dragons because he loved dragons. And that's actually how he learned to count, was with his deck. And then when he was older, we moved him up to another deck that was all, I think it was knights and sorcerers. And that's how he learned Roman numerals, was through his decks, because he loved them. Right. And then we started playing with his psychic abilities, and we put through the 3 cards down, right, and pick a card, pick the animal or what have you. So the decks don't necessarily have to, with children, be used in our traditional forms either. Right. If kids want to play with them, as far as I'm concerned, as long as they're guided, I think it's a way of dispelling any mythologies or fears around them. How do you feel about that, Kayla?
It's a great way for a child to feel in tune with themselves, to understand their emotions. I know as a child personally, and I feel like I see it a lot, like we have really deep emotions that are all encompassing. And if you have a deck, especially an oracle deck, just because they're so positive and vibrant, and if it has a singular message, you are loved, you are safe, or a feeling that comes up that you can see in a photo with a little bit of guidance as to how to shift that feeling.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with, again, giving these tools back to people and having them use these tools in a self-empowering way.
I agree with that 100%. I knew a little girl and her mom was really cool. And this was one of Jay's friends when he was little. And she had a card. She came, she goes, my mommy has this deck and I really like this. I said, well, she goes, what do I do with it? She goes, but I don't know what to do with it. I don't want to lose it. And she used to draw. And I said, put it in your drawing book, right? Because it's art. And she goes, it's art. And we had this conversation about how artistic these things are. And she never looked at them the same way again, right? She looked at them as these beautiful works of art. And I really believe that. And that's, I think, one of the things that I like about the myriad of choices we have with cards now is that it can reflect, they reflect who we are, right? Yeah. Like my little goth doll reflects a part of me that is not necessarily seen by the public, or, you know, the fact that I love baseball. I was a baseball player. I was regionals. When I see that deck, I'm just like, oh my God, that is the coolest thing ever. So these things have themes that really connect to us, which allow us to really utilize them on a deep level, whether they're for us or for others. You know, that's a really important thing. Now, I'm going to shift away a little bit from the cards just for a moment. So when we look at tarot decks, do you see other things that are similar to a tarot deck, like, let's say, runestones? I know bones and sticks for the Haitians. Are there any other things outside of tarot that are similar that also resonate with you because you work with tarot? And if no is the answer, that's okay.
For me, I believe like anything that helps us to know ourselves better. I'm an Aries sun. Growing up in Western culture, learning about Aries when I was a child, it was a lot of, you know, study yourself. So that had influenced me, I feel like, to study myself. Potentially that was one of the influences. So because of that, anything that helps with self-study, understanding ourselves better, I adore human design and astrology.
Okay, I was just going to say that because I know both of you play with astrology as well. Yeah. So do you find that working with your cards and astrology work together? Like, can you utilize those with each other?
Oh my God, yes.
I like that answer.
Oh my God, yes. You know, and it's so funny because I'm just going to pull out one piece of paper here and I'm going to put my glasses on. I have here the Pentacles, and each Pentacles represent Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. You know, so all the astrology sides, each card represents a timing in the month of Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo.
Wow, that's really cool. Okay, so I think I knew that in the back of my brain because I have a book in my office. It's the big book of correspondences, which I love. And I think I have read that before, that each tarot card actually has a planetary correspondence, has an astrological correspondence, has an animal correspondence, a plant correspondence. Yeah. And that's something I really truly believe in, is when we know what our tree of life is, what our animal is, what our color is, what the things that connect to us. So that's something too, right? You guys who are out there, you can actually go online and find out what your tarot correspondence is to your astrological sign. And that's going to give you a deeper sense of who you are. And that's really what this is all about, is really understanding our story, understanding our tree of life and every leaf that's on it, to create that picture of who we are and what our purpose is and how we can feel empowered. And even more so, how do we power each other? And that's really important. So before we have 3 minutes left, Angela, what were you going to say?
I always laugh because when I look at the astrology, the tarot cards, I'm the 7 of Cups, which is Scorpio, which is in La La Land half the time.
So now we're at
all over the place.
Yeah, I know.
It really tells me that 7 of Cups story. I love it.
Yeah, you know, so I know I can look at someone born around the same time as me, and I understand where they're coming from, what they're about.
So closing remarks. What would you tell somebody? What would you like to say as your parting words today, Kayla? And then we're going to go to Angela before we wrap.
Okay. I want to tell you that if you are a mechanic, if you are a nurse, if you have any sort of interest in spirituality and tarot cards, astrology, human design, you can do more than one thing. I love to work with multi-passionate people. I myself am one. I'm an artist, I'm a writer, I'm a singer, an actor. I read astrology, I read tarot, and so can you. So I want to tell you that if you have any sort of interest in these spiritual tools, they are here for you to use. And it doesn't mean anything about you, that you're confused or that you should. I feel like we've lived in a box for a really long time. Break out of the box and you can use all these tools.
Yeah, because they're not there they're not just there for those times of grief or trouble. They're there for us just to help us, just to be there, right?
Yes, everyday tools.
Yeah, absolutely. Angela, what would you like to tell us?
I have to agree with Carla. It just makes you know who you are. Anyone can do it. Anyone can understand. And it opens them up to a whole different outlook on life. And it makes you look at life, your life, people's lives in a totally different way. And it's very healing.
Thank you. Thank you both for being here today. I truly appreciate you. And I agree, that's my mandate with my entire work is we are all intuitive. This is all a natural part of who we are. And again, Kayla, we can find you at Uplifting Tarot on Instagram and Angela at Angela_psychic. And if anybody wants to find me, you can find me at Raising Energy on Instagram as well. I am going to be posting about this so you'll know where to find us and how to find us and all that groovy stuff. Please also join us on Raising Energy on Rogers TV. And that's going to be rogerstv.com/Raising Energy. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And we'll see you again on our next episode of Raising Energy Roundtable.